Miami star quarterback Cam Ward is rumored to be the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. We're going to build the perfect scheme, the right scheme around him so he can be successful. And we're going to tell you, does he actually fit what the Tennessee Titans do? This and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parsons. I'm an offensive draft analyst over with Bleacher Report, and that's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And guys, as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. We're keeping the building a scheme for the 2025 quarterback theme going with Cam Ward out of Miami. Then we're going to talk about this or that, a versus of Jalon Walker versus Jihad Campbell, linebackers from Georgia and Alabama. And we're going to close this thing out with underrated interior defensive line prospects that you need to know about for the 2025 NFL Draft. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. 6'2", 220 pounds, 9-inch hands, guy who led the country in passing touchdowns in 2024. Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Keith, there's a lot of rumors swirling now that he is the projected first overall pick for the Tennessee Titans, which is crazy how that has changed from the Tennessee Titans saying we're not passing up on the generational talent to go quarterback. And now they're probably hitching their wagon to a quarterback, kind of how both of us felt like they should have done. Instead of putting out that statement, we'll see how it plays out. But when you look at Cam Ward, Keith, you got, Callahan, Coach Callahan's the head coach. They're talking about trading Will Levis, like that's already up. They're trying to ship him out of town. That kind of signals that they're going quarterback in the 2025 NFL Draft. Building a scheme. What is the right scheme, in your opinion, for Cam Ward to come in and be successful as a rookie?
Ooh, man, the right scheme. So first of all, I think that Cam Ward is multifaceted. And what he can do as far as a quarterback prospect, has enough arm talent, first of all, to play in any scheme, right? But I think when you want to place him in a scheme, you're discussing more of what maybe some of his deficiencies jumping into the NFL, right? Things he needs to improve on. I'll say it like that. And Cam Ward is a guy that'll hold on to the football from time to time, right? So the scheme wise, is it what I want him in more throwing and anticipation things? I think that part will come with time, right? But I think much like we talked with Will Howard, right? This is a guy that talking about vertical seam shots, right? Like pushing the ball vertical up the field. That's Cam Ward's game. I also think that if you want to move him outside of the pocket and have some QB rollout, sprint outs, things like that, give him some half full reads, let him rip it or tuck the ball down and then get him 6-7 yards. And now it's 2nd and 3 and the chains are still moving, right? So I like Cam Ward, and I think I said this on Twitter, and I'll say it again on here, that him and Caleb Williams' talent is much closer than what people are talking about.
Talk about it.
Their style of play is much closer than what people are talking about and discussing. And this is why DP, this has been a common theme with me for these quarterbacks, is narrative driven versus cutting the film on and saying these things, right? Like, because when you actually watch these quarterbacks, this entire quarterback class, I can handpick quarterbacks from every single class and say, hey, this guy matches up to this guy that everybody was accepting to go in the first round, or everybody was accepting as a top pick. And so I look at Cam and I think, like I said, he's multifaceted. So people should be excited about that. He holds onto the football from time to time, right? That's a part of his style of play. He makes plays with that. Does he make bad decisions from time to time? Yes, but that comes in where you have an offensive coordinator, you have a QB coach, you have a head coach, right? Especially the Tennessee Titans with an offensive background to help clean those things up. But as much potential as many of these top 5 quarterback picks we've seen over the past 5 to 10 years. So I like him in multiple different schemes, DP. I would love for him to grow to the point to where he's a just a pure timing and rhythm thrower, right? And he can anticipate windows and get the ball out, like do it on a consistent basis, because he does
Consistent
do it,
basis, yeah.
but just doing it more on a consistent basis.
I agree with you, Keith, and it's crazy because I've seen people. I did like I've done a breakdown on my YouTube channel of him, and I remember somebody jumped in the comment was like, and I've seen it on social media. People think he's a one read quarterback. And it was like, no, like he actually will go through his reads. It's just they work in a very quick RPO driven offense at Miami, where it's, you know, I think we talked about like, man, Elijah Arroyo should have been more featured in Miami's offense, but that offense was structured to feed the slot in terms of Xavier Restrepo. They got the ball to him a lot in the quick game, the RPO game. He's so good in it. I think that has to be a big part of the whatever offense he's in. Whether if he goes to the Tennessee Titans and coach, you know, Brian Callahan running his offense, and Keith, I remember probably a couple months ago, once the Tennessee Titans landed the first overall pick, I think I came on here. I said, man, I feel like Shedeur would be a better fit for what they do because of the Joe Burrow stuff, the Jake Browning, you know, all that type of stuff, right? And then I went back to the tape and I'm looking at Cam and I'm like, Cam, he thrives in those open concepts as well, similar to Shedeur and to Joe Burrow. Like you go shotgun, I can go 4 or 5 wide, and I have my shooters basically. I can get the ball to the guys, and you see him feel comfortable with that. I agree with you. You got to stop. It's too much hero ball, and it's almost like, have you ever seen? Well, no, I don't know why I'm asking that. You recruited in college. You've watched tape on quarterbacks where you've seen them in high school, and you're like, he's like you see a guy that's playing on the team that clearly he's the best player, and they tell him you're the best player, do everything or we won't win. Every time I watch, going back to Incarnate Word at Washington State, and especially in 2024 at Miami, it was like Cam Ward a bust. Right, the defense was awful. They didn't run the ball, even though they had 2 really good running backs. They didn't lean on the run game enough to take some of that pressure off them or off the defense. It felt like it was a Cam Ward show. And I think, to your point, a OC, a QB coach, is going to tell him, we don't need you to carry us to victories in the NFL. So you don't have to hold the ball and be a superhero for us. Just work within the offense. Do as we call it, complete the plays that are called. Like, yeah, if something breaks down, we know you have an answer, but we don't need that answer to be the first option.
Yeah, no, I go to, and this wasn't a full comparison, and it didn't fully flesh out, right? But you know who I think about, and it's a basketball reference, so you appreciate this. Russell Westbrook, right? And remember Russ, when he first entered the league, he was a points and rebounds guy. And then now you get to the point to where Russ, I think he just crossed over 200 triple doubles, right? To where, what did he add? The assist, right? Getting other people involved. And did it manufacture in championships? No. But my point is that that's what Cam Ward needs to add to his game. Add the assist, right? Just do the points and rebounds. Like change your game and mold your game to where you're more Chris Paul and these guys, right? Because you in the NFL, you have to as many moments and plays that Patrick Mahomes makes on themselves, the wild plays, right? He doesn't do it 40 times a game, right? It's 3 wild plays, and then the other 37 dropbacks are, let me get it to my guys, and understanding that, hey, I have to let those guys make plays also. So
I got some numbers I want to share with you. I got some numbers I want to share with you for Cam Ward. Looking at his throwing chart and everything like that, so percentage wise, like, so, you know, we typically, we talk about like with our big arm quarterbacks, you see them want to push the ball a ton down the field. Like he didn't have to in 2024. He only threw the ball down the field. 16% of his actual attempts were 20 yards down the field. He lived in that short to intermediate portion. We talk about the RPO stuff, the 0 to 9. He lived there with like 34% of his throws came in at 0 to 10 yard range and everything, or 0 to 9 yard range. The quick game, the RPO. But it's the middle of the field where you see the flashes, right? Like 25% of his throws came in the middle of the field or in the medium section, the 10 to 19 yard range. He was like, between the numbers, he was 46 of 70 for 991 yards passing, 8 passing touchdowns. I think he had a quarterback rating of 123.2 which is a high in the NFL. He had 4 interceptions in the middle of the field, and stuff like that as well. But like he can live, similar to what we talk about with Will Howard, guys that can live in the middle of the field. If you can target between the numbers, you can have success in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree, DP. I agree 100%. And there's definitely, like you said, everything is there for Cam Ward to be successful. Last thing, I want to give the head coach actually a shout out because I went back and I watched the Will Levis film, and he evolved as a play caller and a play designer. The same things that he called for Will Levis, he didn't call for Joe Burrow. And I actually appreciate that. There was more under center stuff, play action, push the ball vertical, give Will Levis an opportunity to be successful. Now, did it work out? Not necessarily, but that lets me know and gives me a sign that I think he's going to do best by Cam Ward overall because he's willing to change and evolve his offense. But DP, this topic is about to be fun for me. We have Jalon Walker versus Jihad Campbell. Jihad Campbell, linebacker from Georgia, Jalon Walker versus Alabama linebacker Jihad Campbell. And we're going to have some fun with this conversation, say who would we rather, right? Compare and contrast those guys. And we're going to talk about that coming up next.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need an extra hand for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. It's all about finding the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent growing your business today. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Gametime comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Gametime Picks curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. I'm telling you now, I just checked the Gametime app for you, and there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. So why would you want to pass up on a deal like this? Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Guys, download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. It's time for some verses, Keith. You said Jihad Campbell, Alabama linebacker. I was just going to go through his combine stats and height and everything. He came in at 6'3", 235, 32.5-inch arms, 10.5-inch on the hands. Ran a 4.52 with a 1.53 10-yard split. No vertical, no 3-cone, no 20-yard shuttle, but he did jump 10.7 in the broad versus Georgia. Both of these guys are hybrids, essentially, of Jalon Walker. He came in 6'1", 243, 32-inch arms, 10 1/4 on the hand. He did not do any athletic testing at the combine, but when you look at these two guys, Keith, and they both of them are similar. They both can play off-ball backer. They do play off-ball backer. They both will line up on the edge, rush you, blitz. If you need them to blitz, they do different things, and they wear multiple hats for their respective defenses. Keith, who would you rather? I'm gonna put context. First round, your team that needs one of these type of profiles on your defense, who are you picking? Is it Jalon Walker out of Georgia, or is it Jihad Campbell out of Alabama?
DP is tough because this one is near and dear to my heart because both of these guys, I think you can say I probably got on before a lot of people in the draft community, right? Both of these guys are guys I brought up and was like, hey, I kind of think these guys could play football, right? And made the statement, and the tweet that I had was that I believe that Penn State and Jalon Walker could be the two best pass rushers in this draft class. Go ahead, add Jihad Campbell into that group too from an upside perspective. It's not on tape yet, but the upside is there. He just hasn't done it a lot. Now who would I pick at this very moment, DP? I have to go to Jalen Walker. You're talking about the Tasmanian Devil. As far as his play style, where he's just a bull in a china shop, wrecking shop, and he's hitting any and everybody that doesn't have his uniform on, right?
Right.
I like him as a, I think he's serviceable and solid as a stack linebacker, right? And then I think he's going to use his size to his advantage so much when you're talking about being a pass rusher, because those offensive tackles, we talk about strength. I mean, you talk about arm length, right? Being a big thing. The other part is leverage and pass rushing, right? And I think we're going to see him be able to get under those big 6'6" offensive tackles and hit them in the chest and just drive those guys back. But also they're going to struggle to bend to get to him, right? Like, and they're going to force the conversation about them being, and I'm talking about NFL offensive tackles, right? Like, how you had a conversation of, is he a waist bender or a knee bender? He's going to force offensive tackles into bad habits, and he's going to stress their athleticism to see like if they're real knee benders consistently down in and down out, because of his leverage situation with him only being what I think 6'1", maybe 245.
6'1".
So I'm gonna go Jalen Walker, but I'm not dismissing Jihad Campbell at all. I think there's a lot of upside for this young man as an outside linebacker rushing the passer.
Yeah, I think the power, the leverage, and all, like everything you said, that is absolutely in the favor of Jalen Walker. Like Jalen Walker, you don't really see him get moved when he's on the edge, like get moved off the ball. Like he plays, like I think people looked at the weight and they looked at the height and they're like, oh man, like I don't know if he can live full time at edge. And I'm like, yeah, I don't feel that way. I think he can absolutely live full time at edge. And I think there's so much more upside for him to reach as a full time edge. It's almost similar to the Travis Hunter thing, right? We talk about his press man like technique, and it was like, well, now if we draft you as a corner, you get to just practice that. You get to just work on all of the technical aspects that you weren't able to truly work on while you were playing both sides of the ball. It's the same thing with Jalen Walker. A team drafts him, whether it's the Carolina Panthers at 8 or another team in the top 25, and they say, you're coming in as a full-time edge. We don't need you as an off-ball backer. We're good there. I want you as an edge. Now he gets to truly work on expanding the bag, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like the bag big enough that where TSA is flagging it. Like that's how big the bag can be for him. And I just think that you can get that out of him once you put him at full-time edge. I'm gonna go Jihad Campbell though. And I think like the versatility with him as an edge rusher, I think he, like you said, the upside is outstanding for him as an edge rusher. Quickness, speed off the ball. He has some speed to power conversion as well, but he's a better stack backer than Jalen Walker is. Athletically, he's superior, like the range and things like that. Now I'll say this. Like range it's to me it's a two-part thing when I look at backers with range, or just range period from defense. It's downhill range and then it's lateral range. And I feel like Jalen Walker has really good downhill range. I feel like Jihad Campbell's like horizontal lateral range is much better than what his is. He's a more fluid, loose athlete. And I think he can cover, like this is a guy you feel like we've seen the clip of him in the red zone versus Kyron Lacy. We all watched that tape against LSU this past season and watch him cover one of the best route runners in college football in Kyron Lacy, a guy who knows how to beat deep nickels and outside corners routinely. And to be able to drop in coverage or play man-to-man, I think there's so much more upside there for him as well. I think he's just going to be a guy that, where Jalen Walker to me is a pure edge that you can get away with that stack backer. Jihad Campbell can be an absolute playmaker at the stack backer position who can then walk down to the edge spot and then rush if you need him to.
Yeah, and I think with Jihad too, I believe that Jalen Walker's frame is maxed out, right? Like you're not putting another 20 pounds on him. But Jihad, with the length that he has, I think you could put another 15, 20 pounds on him. And this guy, looks like a Anthony Barr, right? One of those linebackers from back in the day, right? That can be your strong side linebacker, line up on the line of scrimmage, set the edge, but also rush when you need to. So that's why I said like this topic was near and dear to my heart because to be completely honest, I want both of these guys on my defense. And I say give me both of these guys as unfinished products, but I've seen enough in college and also identify the upside and how they play that I'm buying in on them. Like give me these guys.
Let me ask you that, Keith.
Yep.
Let me ask you this. So I'm gonna do for both prospects. You think about teams in the top 32 in round one. What's the best landing spot? I'm gonna start with Jihad Campbell. What's the best landing spot potentially for him in round one? I think both of these guys go round one. If either of them slip out of round one, like we talked about when we had the Jalen Milroe conversation, somebody's not drafting good players if these guys are falling out of round one. For Jihad Campbell, what do you think would be the best landing spot for him on day one of the draft?
Ooh, man, that's tough. I look at so first I'll give landing spots for both of these guys. I think Atlanta should look at both of these guys. Because they both Atlanta needs linebackers because of the whole what's our guy? Troy Anderson. Remember him out of the small school linebacker, played a bunch like that situation didn't work out, right? It's not working out right now. So I look at Atlanta, so that's what pick 15, I believe, as a landing spot for both of them. And then this is tough. I'll probably go Tampa. Because obviously their linebackers are getting older and they talented linebackers. You're talking about Levante David, KJ Britt, but they're getting older, but they also need pass rush, right? They need to make their defense multiple, get Todd Bowles to be able to do some different things. So that's the two spots that I see. Is that the highest spots? No, but I really like both of those spots where I think team need meets player what they can do.
No, I like that, kid. I'm gonna go one pick ahead of Atlanta, the Indianapolis Colts. I know we've been putting the tight end to them this whole time. I believe they released or let EJ Speed when their starting linebackers hit free agency because him and Zaire Franklin were too similar, and it caused some issues on their second level. And more so, Jihad would be for best fit to me for Jihad. I think starts with at 14 to Indianapolis. This is the type of guy they need at the second level, and I honestly think I think the arrow is actually pointing that direction that we may see them bypass tight end and wait to round two and get Jihad Campbell, who they know can do multiple things for their defense. And he'll be a very good complement to Zaire Franklin because it's a different body type a little bit, but different styles and where their strengths are he can cover up the weaknesses of Zaire Franklin. And their strengths and weaknesses bounce off of each other, where I think EJ Speed and Zaire, their weaknesses basically compounded because they were the same exact weaknesses. I think Tampa as well for Jihad. When I look at for Jalon, I think you called it Atlanta. Listen, 15, I swear, Terry, don't do it again. Don't ignore pass rush again, Terry Fontenot. Don't do it, brother. Pick a pass rusher. You were 32nd. You were tied for 32nd in sacks in 2024. Go edge rusher. I think 15. I also look at 16 to the Arizona Cardinals. I know they brought in Josh Sweat. They have BJ Ojulari coming back. I could just see this team just trying to load up on pass rushers and making sure, you know what, somebody's got to hit. You know what I mean? Just brace themselves for Baron Browning can play off-ball backer. We don't need you to play full-time edge. We have Josh Sweat. We have BJ Ojulari. Maybe they work BJ Ojulari as a DPR coming off the ACL, and then you have Jalen Walker and Josh Sweat on your edges to be able to set the edge, but also get to the backfield. I think those are the two spots for Jalen Walker that I like the most. And I think, of course, Baltimore. Either one of them.
Yeah.
Baltimore. Yep. Baltimore can take either one of those guys.
With DP, let's do this, man. Let's go. We're going deeper right into the defense. We're going to the trenches, man. Everybody keeps saying this is a deep and talented interior defensive line class. We're going to talk about those guys that are flying under the radar, guys to put on your radar that maybe you could get in day 2, day 3 as picks and be impact starters for your defensive line. We're going to talk about those guys coming up next.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our every day. In those underrated interior defensive line prospects for the 2025 NFL Draft. Keith, I'm going to go to SMU. 6'3", 290 pounds, came into the combine with 33-inch arms, 9 1/8 on the hand, 4.86 in the 40, 169 10-yard split. He didn't do the three-cone and all that other stuff. He did have a 32-inch vert. But Jared Harrison Hunt from SMU, I was watching some tape on him, and this dude is disruptive. He gets into the backfield. He's a lot of fun to watch because he having those 33-inch arms, like he knows how to use his length and wingspan. He can quickly knock down hands and clear the shoulder, but also he gets his hands fitted into the chest blockers early. He plays with a good pad level. He's really good against double teams too. For a guy that's 290 pounds, typically you say, oh, he shouldn't be able to park the Red Sea and split those double teams as easy as he does, but he does at a very, very high rate where he knows how to pry himself free, get into the backfield. Against BYU, he had an interception on the screen where he slipped going forward, popped back up, had the play recognition ability, the ability to recognize what was happening, right? Saw the quarterback throw the ball, jumped in front of the running back, picked it off. If he was a little bit faster, Keith, he probably could have taken it to the house, but he got him down into the low red zone. I think this is a guy, day 3, that can come in and be an impactful rookie, rotational guy early on. But when you're 6'3", 290, that 3 tech, but he could play 4-eye. He even showcased ability to play some 2-eye because of his strength. This is a guy that more fans need to know about, because if your team does, or if you're a team that needs multiple interior defensive linemen, you could go one in the early rounds. But if you need that depth guy, that rotational guy to keep your guys' legs fresh, you want to build with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's how you do it. You double dip in the draft and you get talent, man. Jared Harrison Hunt, SMU, keep your eyes on him.
I like that name called DP, and he is a very talented player. Watched him in spurts. Watching his teammate, Elijah, the defensive end, Elijah Roberts, I believe.
Roberts, yep.
Yeah. And seeing him in flashes also. So I agree with you on that. I'm gonna just go 2 guys real quick that I've mentioned before, but I still don't think is getting enough recognition. If you get these guys in late day 2, huge win. And first of all, that's Tennessee defensive lineman Omar Norman Lott. Remember him? He got 3 names, right? Circle this guy. I'm telling you, I think there's a lot of upside with this guy. I believe he played somewhere around only 40 to 50% of the snaps at Tennessee. So the production whatever he had could be almost doubled, right? Or at least 75% more if he would have because the Tennessee just used a heavy defensive line rotation to where sometimes you start the game and you're like, wait, did he even play this game? And then you'll see him on snap 20, right, of the game. And this guy, like I said, man, he flashes, quick hands, violence, strong hands, knockback, good range for a defensive lineman, all of it. Then the next guy, who I think is going to serve as a versatile, useful piece along the defensive front, and that's Ty Robinson. Sometimes he's listed as an edge rusher, sometimes he's listed as an interior defensive lineman. What I always say, DP, put my guys in the most athletically advantageous situation, and I will put him at interior defensive lineman. Would I let him rush the edge from time to time? Of course, but expect that he's probably going to be a speed to power guy on the edge, right? He's not probably going to win with flat out quickness, but moving him, kicking him inside, there's a lot of upside for him to be a real impactful defensive lineman, because he is a good athlete, a fluid mover, smooth, knows how to get home, strong hands, high motor, really good football player. So that's the 2 guys, DP, that I say, hey, if you get either one of these guys on late day 2, be extremely excited.
No, I like that. And when Norman has length, man, 33 3/4 on the arm, almost 300 pounds, and he moves much better than that. And, this is a guy that you put me on to his game a couple months ago, and this is definitely a guy I like. Ty Robinson, a guy that popped for me when they played Colorado early in the season. He was dominant in that game. 6'5", 288, 32 in the quarter on the arm. He tested pretty solid too. Got 28 reps on the bench, 4.83 in the 40 for a near 300-pounder. And I think I'm gonna throw a comp out there for him and what I think he can become. Keith, he played at Arizona. When he was in Arizona and I covered the Cardinals, I wasn't a big fan of him. But he has evolved and developed his game so much more since then. Zach Allen with the Denver Broncos, similar body type, similar height. Their height and weight are almost identical. And Zach Allen, for those who don't know, is coming off a season. Second year in Denver. First year, he had 5 sacks and the forced fumble. Year 2 in 2024 with Denver, 8.5 sacks. 61 tackles. This dude has been disruptive. He's been one of the better interior defensive linemen that just continues to fly under the radar. Shout out to him for just getting better because he didn't rush the passer as well as I wanted to or stop the run. To be a complete player in Arizona, he has completely flourished in Denver. They put him in the right positions. I think Ty Robinson can be that level of player that where he may not hit his ceiling year 2, 3, or 4, but you keep him in the rotation. He can eventually get there, and I think their games are very, very similar.
Yeah, DP, it's funny that you mentioned a guy that plays for Denver because the guy that came to mind for me for Ty Robinson was, do you remember Derek Wolfe? And he was the important piece of that Denver Broncos defense, especially when he made that Super Bowl run. He's a guy I thought of when I thought of Ty Robinson also.
That's a good one. That's a really good one too. Like I forgot all about Derek Wolfe. Unsung hero, man. People don't remember.
100%. Those guys,
6'5", almost same exact height and weight too. 6'5", 285.
Yep.
Listen, I like that. Like that call out.
Yep. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, we are scouting Mykel Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia, talk about some team fits and where we kind of project him to play in the NFL. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.